All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about something that's quietly standing guard over our collective knowledge. A piece of digital architecture you've probably never heard of, but that's incredibly important. This is our explainer on DSpace.
So let's kick things off with a pretty big question. I mean, just think about it for a second. Every single article you read, every research paper, every old photo that gets scanned, all of that digital stuff has to go somewhere, right? But what happens when that trickle of information becomes a flood? What happens when it's just too much to handle?
Well, that's exactly what brings us to what's known as the modern knowledge problem. And it's a huge challenge, especially for the places we trust to keep our history and science safe. Our libraries, universities, and archives.
I mean, every single day, these institutions are creating this absolute tidal wave of digital stuff. We're talking about everything from critical scientific data to game-changing academic articles to one-of-a-kind historical records. The list, it just goes on and on.
And here's the scary part. Without a really solid plan, all of that priceless knowledge could just disappear. It's like a digital black hole. File formats become unreadable, hard drives crash, data just gets corrupted over time. It's basically the modern equivalent of a library burning to the ground, but it happens silently, bit by bit. So, how do you stop a fire you can't see?
Well, that's where DSpace comes in. It's the platform that was built from the ground up to solve this exact problem. So this isn't some niche thing. DSpace is the go-to tool for thousands of places all over the world. We're talking big names like MIT and the World Bank. What it does is it lets them build their own digital libraries, or to use the official term, their own digital repositories.
Okay, so this definition here is straight from the official docs, and I think it's really telling. Notice it's not just about storing stuff. It's about a whole life cycle, a process. You capture the knowledge, you distribute it to the world, and this is the key part, you preserve it for the long haul, for future generations. So let's break that down a little. First up is capture and describe. This is where you bring in your digital files and add all that crucial info. The metadata. Who made it? When? What's it even about? Then, distribute. This is about getting it out there, making it easy for people to find and use online. And finally, preserve. This is the big one. It's all about making sure that a file you upload today will still actually be usable 50 or even 100 years from now.
All right, let's move on and take a look inside the repository itself. What can one of these things actually do? We're going to peek under the hood a bit, and we'll use the brand new DSpace 9.0 release to see some of the cool modern features.
First things first, you've got to make it easy to get stuff into the system, right? Otherwise, nobody will use it. So DSpace now hooks into something called OpenAlex, which is this gigantic open catalog of research. What that means is, instead of manually typing in all the details of a publication, you can just import it. Boom. It's a massive, massive time saver for librarians and researchers.
Okay, so you've got all this great stuff in your repository, but is anyone actually looking at it? How do you know? Well, now there's an integration with a tool called Matomo. It's a privacy-first analytics platform, and it lets institutions see what's being downloaded, what people are searching for, basically to understand the real-world impact of their collections. And this next one, this is just so cool. If you have any data that's tied to a real-world location, think historical maps or maybe archaeological dig sites or even environmental data, you can now browse and search for it on an actual map. It's a total game changer for how you can explore and interact with that kind of information. So yeah, all these features are really impressive, but they don't just magically appear, right? And that brings us to what I think is the most important part of the whole story, the real engine behind DSpace, its incredible global community. Just take a look at this release schedule. This shows you that DSpace isn't some piece of software you just install and forget about. No way. It's a living, breathing project. It's constantly getting updates, bug fixes, security patches, new features every few months. That steady pulse, that's the community at work. 52. Just let that sink in. That's how many different volunteer developers contributed code to just one release, DSpace 9.2. And these aren't just random coders. These are librarians, people who manage these repositories, and developers at universities and institutions from all over the planet, all donating their time and their skills. So what kind of stuff are they doing? Well, it's the whole spectrum. On one end, you have these huge, heavy lift projects they call breaking changes, like completely rebuilding the user interface with new technology. That takes a ton of work. And on the other end, you have supercritical security fixes, like patching a hole that could let attackers in. Both are absolutely essential to keeping the lights on, and both come from this volunteer community. And if you want proof of just how global this thing is, check this out. That same single release included language updates for Arabic, Bengali, French, Spanish, Ukrainian, 9 different languages in total, all contributed by native speakers from those communities. It's what makes the software truly usable for everyone, everywhere.
You know, this quote from the official release notes, it really says it all, doesn't it? The DSpace application would not exist without the hard work and support of its community. This isn't just a product, it's a shared resource, built by the same people who use it every day. It's just a fantastic model for how to build digital tools that are meant to last.
And that brings us full circle. Tools like DSpace are, in a way, like modern-day digital arcs. They give us the ability to save our collective knowledge and carry it safely into the future. So the really big question, the one we all have to think about, is what are we going to choose to put on board?